So welcome back to the Floriani Software Fundamentals video series on FTCU. My name is Mark Garetz and I'm a National Floriani educator. And in this section we're going to show you how to create a custom thread chart. The ability to create a custom thread chart in FTCU is one of its most powerful features. Because while you might stick with a particular brand of thread, a lot of us sometimes will use other brands of thread, and it's convenient to have all of those different threads in a single thread chart so we can select them easily from our design palette. But also remember that under our preferences, there's a setting right here to color match on loading. So if you have this checked and you have a thread chart here, remember that when you load in a stitch file, it's going to automatically convert those threads to whatever thread chart you have selected. Now, if you always use one brand of thread like the Floriani Poly here, then that's fine. You don't need to create a custom thread chart. But let's say you had some Floriani Poly and you had some Jenny Haskins rayon and you had some other threads that mixed in there. You could create your own custom thread chart, and then it would actually convert to whatever threads you actually have on hand. So we are going to show you in this section how you would actually go ahead and create that custom thread chart. So, and of course, once you do that, it will appear here in your list of thread charts to pick from. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this because the thread chart creator tool is here under our tools menu. So if you click it, there's an item right here called thread chart creator. And when you click it, you're going to get the thread chart creator dialog. Now, let's go over the settings here. Here is your color palette name. So it's going to default to new color palette. You can, of course, change this to whatever you want it to be. And then when you click save, it will, which is right here, it will save it with that name. Now you can start a new color palette. And right now, if I click it, it's going to do exactly the same thing as this, because when you open it up, it gives you a new color palette automatically. But if you were working on one and you decided you wanted to start over, you could click new and it would give you a brand new one. You can open an existing thread chart. So this is very, very powerful. I'll show you how this works. When you click open, it's going to go to where the thread charts are stored, and you could pick one. Let's say our new Floriani color spectrum thread set. It has a new chart, so I could open that one, click open, and it's going to preload this chart in here for me. So this is really, really useful if I have, say, a lot of a certain color palette and I just want to delete some colors or add some colors to it. Rather than having to create that chart from scratch, I can go ahead and open it up, and then I can actually edit it, and then I can change the name and save it as a new name, or I can save it over the top of itself, but I will caution you not to do that. It's better to save it as its own name. And of course, if you want to, you can actually delete a thread chart. And again, this is important that you don't delete a thread chart that you might want to come back and use at some point. But if you don't want to be bothered by a bunch of thread palettes that you know you'll never use, you can open them, and then when you click delete, it will actually delete it from your thread chart list. Now, there's no way to go back, so again, I caution you only to do that sparingly, if at all. So that's what these buttons do here. Once you have a thread chart loaded, you can select a color simply by clicking it, and when you do that, it's going to show you what it looks like. It's going to give you the name, it's going to give you the color code, and the RGB or red, green, blue values. Alternatively, you can use the hue, saturation, and luminance values, and these interact. So if you change one of these will change, etc. All right, so you can also pick a color simply by moving the dot around here on this color wheel, and you can adjust the luminance or lightness or darkness with this slider over here. And then you save it, it will save it with whatever new values you have. Now, this is more useful when you're adding a new color and you have these values that you want to type them in. So we'll show you how to do that in a second. But this is a good way to see what these values are for any particular thread in a thread chart. So if I click a different color, like let's click this baby pink, you'll see that it changes and I get the name and the color code. If I want to search for a particular color, I can do that by color code by clicking right here, and pressing enter, and it will find that color code here in my chart. So for example, this is 151. If I were here and I were to say find 151, I don't even have to press enter. In fact, it will automatically go and find 151 for me in that color chart. Now, what if you want to add a color to this color chart? Let's say, for example, this Floriani color spectrum chart here, it's a brand new chart. It has all the colors of the rainbow in it, plus some, but what it doesn't have is white or black. So let's say, or any grays actually. So let's say we want to add a Floriani black to this color chart so we could easily select it. So we can do that one of two ways. We can simply click add color, and when it does that, it brings up a default gray box with nothing here, and if I know the values for it, I can click it in here. Now I'm actually not going to use that method, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say import. All right, so if I click import, that's going to bring up another color selector, and from here I can choose any other color palette. All right, so I could choose Floriani Poly, and I know that black is in here, and I can either search for it this way, or if I want to, I can click the little question mark box here, and I can search for it either by number or by name. So I know it's 900, so I can type in 900 and click find, and it'll go highlight black for me. I could also type in black, and when I have this color selected, I can click the import button, and when I do that, it will bring it into this thread chart. Now it stays here because oftentimes I want to import more than one color from a thread chart, so it doesn't close this. It lets me continue to import until I'm done, and then I can either click exit or I can click the close icon here. But you can see that now I have added the black in here, and I've got all of its values, and it happens to be 0 for black. But I got this gray color in here that doesn't even have a name or anything because I clicked add color and I didn't do anything. But watch, I can delete this now. See, it doesn't even have a color name or color code. If I click remove color, it's going to say, do you want to delete that? And I'm going to say yes, so that one's gone. But you can see now that I have added black to this color spectrum. Now all I have to do is save it, but one thing to note is that it will not let you overwrite a standard or supplied color palette name. So I have to give this a new name if I want to save it. So I could call it color spectrum with black, and I could now click save, and it would ask me if I want to save it, and I would say yes. And now if I wanted to use this in my designs, I could pick this from my color chart because it would now appear. Now, what if I want to create my own thread color? I can do that by again typing in the name and the color code if there is one, and I can type in the RGB values or the hue, saturation, and luminance values if I get those from the thread manufacturer, or I can just pick a color that I think is close here. Now what if I want to add a color that's variegated? Because one of the new things that we've added recently is the ability to support variegated thread colors in a thread chart. So the way I would do that is I would start with a new color, and I would click my variegated button here, and here I've got the color and the length. So I would put in a color here by double clicking it, and I could pick a color from here. I could select a color from the world by clicking the select, and that lets me go out here and say select this color or this color or this color from a color chart. I can go to my, if I unselect that, I can go to my custom tab here and pick a color, again with my hue, saturation, and luminance or RGB values. And let me just pick a red here, and when I say OK, actually it was a pink. And then if I want to add another color, I would need to give it a length. The length of 0 doesn't make any sense. So let me put in, say, 10 millimeters. Oh, I have to double click this. And then I would put in, say, 10 millimeters and say OK. Well, I wouldn't say OK yet because I got to add another color first. So let's say it went back and forth between pink and, let me just pick another color here by double clicking. Let's do a blue and say OK. And let's say this one is also 10 millimeters. And I'm going to say OK, and that's my variegated color. So you can see now here I've got multiple colors that would appear in this spectrum color chart if I saved it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually remove that color. And it says, yes, I want to do this. Now, I didn't give it a name. That's why it's looking a little weird. So I would delete that one. And if I want to delete black from here, I could, but I'm not. I'm going to exit. So it tells me I need to change this or save it before I exit. Otherwise, the changes will be lost. So again, I'm going to say yes. And now I've got my new color chart created. So that is the color chart creator. And you can again use it to create your own custom thread chart. And it's important to note that you can mix and match thread manufacturers within a chart.